The laughter died instantly as Brayden hit the floor hard, his champagne flute shattering beside him in a spray of bubbles and glass. Derek, his sister Emily's fiancé, stood over him with a grin that didn't reach his eyes, the chair still gripped in one hand like a trophy from some cruel game. "Whoops! Guess the seat wasn't gay enough to hold you, Brayden," Derek said loudly enough for the entire ballroom to hear, and a few of his college buddies chuckled nervously while the rest of the room went dead silent. Brayden's face burned as he pushed himself up on one elbow, the polished oak floor cold against his palm. His tailored navy suit now dusted with embarrassment he could never brush off. At 28, he had faced worse stares back in San Francisco, but here in the heart of his family's old Pasadena estate turned party venue, every eye felt like a judgment he had spent years trying to outrun. Emily rushed forward first, her white lace dress swishing, her hand hovering uncertainly between helping her brother and calming her future husband. "Derek, that wasn't funny?" she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. The same hesitation Brayden had heard since he came out at 19. Their parents, seated at the head table, froze in their matching silver-gray outfits. Mom's mouth a thin line, Dad already reaching for his scotch as if the burn could erase the moment. Uncle Mike muttered something about kids these days, while cousins exchanged glances that said everything without words. Brayden stood slowly, forcing a smile that felt like broken glass in his mouth, his heart hammering with the familiar mix of shame and defiance that had defined so much of his life. He had driven down from San Francisco for this weekend because Emily begged him to be part of her big day, promising the family had moved on. Clearly, some chairs and some people still couldn't hold the weight of who he was. As the band awkwardly resumed playing a soft jazz number, Brayden excused himself to the terrace, the cool California night air doing nothing to calm the storm inside. He leaned against the stone railing, staring at the string lights twinkling over the garden, replaying the fall in slow motion. It wasn't just the physical tumble. It was the reminder that no matter how successful his graphic design career had become, no matter how many pride parades he marched in back home, here he was still the gay son who made everyone uncomfortable. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a text from his best friend back in the city, but he ignored it, too raw to explain. Inside, the party continued as if nothing had happened, laughter rising again, toasts clinking for the happy couple. Brayden wondered, not for the first time, if love for family meant swallowing every slight or if there came a point when silence became betrayal. He didn't hear the footsteps until a deep voice cut through the quiet. "You okay out here?" The man stepping onto the terrace was tall, dark-haired, with sharp features softened by genuine concern. Roman Hale, Derek's best man and college roommate, extended a hand that Brayden hesitated to take. Roman had always been polite at family gatherings, the successful architect from Chicago who fit perfectly into the straight-laced world Brayden had never quite cracked. "That was messed up in there," Roman added quietly, his brown eyes steady. "Derek's an idiot sometimes. You didn't deserve that." For the first time that night, someone looked at him without pity or discomfort, and Brayden felt the tight knot in his chest loosen just a fraction. He accepted the handshake, the warmth lingering a second longer than necessary, unaware that this small moment on a starlit terrace would become the first thread in a tapestry neither of them saw coming. The party lights reflected in Roman's eyes, and for a heartbeat, Brayden forgot the fall. But the night was far from over. Back inside, Emily found him later by the dessert table, her voice low and urgent. "Brayden, please don't make a scene." Derek didn't mean anything by it. He was just nervous. The words landed like another yank of the chair. Brayden nodded, swallowing the retort burning on his tongue, because this was her night, her future, and he had promised himself he wouldn't be the one to ruin it. Yet as he watched his parents laugh at one of Derek's stories, the old familiar ache returned, the one that whispered he would always be the outsider, the brother who loved men in a family that preferred to pretend otherwise. He slipped out early, driving the rented car back to his hotel with the radio off, the city's distant glow blurring through unshed tears. Tomorrow he would face brunch with the family, and he already knew the script. Smiles, avoidance, another layer of silence. What he didn't know was that Roman had watched him leave. A quiet decision forming in the architect's mind that would upend everything. The next morning, sunlight poured through the hotel curtains like an accusation, and Brayden stared at his reflection while knotting a tie for the family brunch. The bruise on his elbow from the fall throbbed faintly, a physical echo of the deeper sting still fresh in his chest. He had spent the night replaying every awkward glance, every forced laugh, questioning why he kept showing up for these performances. Back in San Francisco, his life was different. Late nights at the design studio overlooking the bay, weekend hikes with friends who never made him explain himself, quiet evenings in his apartment filled with plants and sketches. Here he was reduced to Emily's brother, the one who's, He grabbed his keys, steeling himself for another round of polite denial. Brunch at the country club was exactly as predicted. Mimosas flowing, toasts to the future, and zero mention of the chair incident. Derek clapped Brayden on the back a little too hard, muttering, "No hard feelings, man," before steering Emily toward more photos. Their mother pulled Brayden aside near the mimosa station, her voice soft but firm. "Sweetheart, we love you. Just try to fit in today. For your sister." The words weren't new, but they landed heavier after last night, stirring the old identity crisis he thought he had outgrown. Was fitting in the same as disappearing? He excused himself to the restroom, splashing water on his face, when Roman appeared in the mirror behind him. "Hey, Brayden. Mind if we talk outside for a minute?" Roman's tone was casual, but his eyes held the same steady concern from the terrace. They walked to a quiet bench overlooking the golf course, the California hills rolling green under a cloudless sky. Roman leaned forward, elbows on knees. "I saw how you handled yourself last night. Most people would have exploded. That takes strength." Brayden laughed bitterly, the sound hollow. "Or cowardice. I didn't want to ruin Emily's day." Roman shook his head. "That's not cowardice. That's love. The complicated kind." For the first time, someone named it without judgment, and Brayden found himself opening up, words tumbling out about years of therapy, the coming-out fight that nearly split the family, the move to San Francisco to breathe freely. Roman listened without interrupting, sharing pieces of his own life, the pressure of a conservative Midwestern family, the architecture firm he built from scratch in Chicago, the quiet loneliness that came with always being the reliable straight friend. They talked for nearly an hour, the brunch forgotten, until Emily texted Brayden in a panic. But something had shifted. Roman slipped him his number, just in case you need a non-idiot to vent to, and the simple gesture felt like a lifeline. Driving back to the hotel later, Brayden replayed the conversation, a warmth spreading through him that had nothing to do with the sun. Roman wasn't like the men Brayden usually met in the city. Flirty, surface level. This felt deeper, grounded, like two people recognizing the same hidden scars. Yet doubt crept in fast. Roman was Derek's best man, straight as far as anyone knew, and getting close now would only complicate everything. Brayden pushed the thought away, focusing instead on packing for his flight home the next day. Back in San Francisco by evening, the city lights welcomed him like an old friend. He unpacked in his loft apartment, the Bay Bridge glittering outside the window, but his mind kept drifting to the terrace, the bench, Roman's steady voice. A text came through, "Safe flight? Hope the family's circus didn't follow you home. Roman." Brayden smiled despite himself, typing back a quick reply. What started as gratitude quickly turned into late-night messages over the following weeks. Sharing design sketches, funny client stories, quiet admissions about family holidays avoided. Roman's visits to the West Coast for work brought coffee meetups that stretched into dinners, conversations flowing effortlessly from career dreams to childhood memories. Brayden felt seen in a way he hadn't since college, the internal conflict easing as he allowed himself to hope. But back home in Pasadena, Emily called one night, voice tight. Derek heard you're talking to Roman a lot. He thinks it's weird. The misunderstanding hit like a fresh yank of the chair. Brayden defended the friendship, but the seed of doubt was planted. His mother echoed the concern in her weekly check-in, reminding him not to stir things up before the wedding. The pressure mounted, forcing Brayden to confront the same old choice: hide parts of himself or risk losing the family thread that still tied him down. Roman sensed the shift during their next call and offered to fly out for a weekend. No pressure, just support. Brayden hesitated, heart racing with the possibility of something more, yet terrified of the fallout. The city lights blurred as he stared out the window, wondering how long he could balance the two worlds before one pulled the chair out from under the other. Weeks blurred into a rhythm Brayden hadn't expected. Roman's weekend visit to San Francisco arrived with crisp autumn air and the kind of easy companionship that made the city feel brighter. They wandered the Embarcadero, Roman sketching building facades while Brayden snapped photos for inspiration, laughter coming naturally over street tacos and ferry rides to Alcatraz. You know, I never told anyone this, Roman said one evening on the Golden Gate Bridge overlook, wind tugging at his jacket. But growing up, I always felt like I was performing the role everyone expected. Architect by day, perfect son by weekend. It gets exhausting. Brayden nodded, the confession mirroring his own buried fears. And for a moment their shoulders brushed, the contact sending a quiet spark through him. He didn't push, didn't label it, but the connection deepened, friendship evolving into something warmer, more intentional. The call from Emily shattered the peace 2 days later. Brayden, Derek's furious. He says Roman's been ignoring his texts because of you. And now Mom thinks you're trying to sabotage the wedding. The accusation landed like a betrayal he hadn't seen coming. Brayden defended himself, explaining the innocent friendship, but Emily's voice cracked with doubt. Just keep your distance until after the wedding, okay? For me. Hanging up, he paced his apartment, the misunderstanding twisting into a knot of frustration. Roman called immediately after, calm but firm. This is their fear talking, not truth. You don't have to shrink yourself. They talked for hours, Roman sharing how similar pressure had once cost him a close friend back in college, the sacrifice of authenticity that still haunted him. Brayden felt the pull of old patterns. Apologize, retreat, pretend. But Roman's steady presence challenged him to stand taller. Work provided temporary escape. At the studio, Brayden threw himself into a major campaign for a local nonprofit, designing posters that celebrated diversity in the city. Colleagues noticed his focus, one friend pulling him aside. You seem lighter lately. New guy. Brayden deflected with a smile, but inside the question stirred hope. Roman flew back for another short trip, and they spent a day hiking in Marin Headlands, the Pacific stretching endless below. Conversation turned personal again, Roman admitting the loneliness of his Chicago life, the dates that never felt right. Brayden shared stories of past relationships that ended because partners couldn't handle the family baggage. The air between them crackled with unspoken possibility, yet neither named it, respecting the fragile line they walked. The betrayal came via a group text from Derek to the wedding party, including Roman, a joke meme mocking sensitive types, with a not-so-subtle reference to Brayden. Roman replied publicly, calling it out as inappropriate, and the group chat exploded. Emily texted Brayden privately, torn between loyalty to her fiancé and love for her brother. Why does everything have to be about this? The words stung, revealing how deeply the family still viewed his identity as the problem. Brayden sat on his balcony that night, phone dark, the city humming below, weighing the cost of silence against the cost of truth. Roman's follow-up call was the anchor. You don't owe them your erasure. I'm here, whatever you decide. The support cracked something open, and Brayden realized the sacrifice wasn't hiding. It was pretending the prejudice didn't hurt. As Thanksgiving approached, Brayden declined the family invitation, citing work deadlines, but the decision brought its own guilt. Roman surprised him with a ticket to Chicago for the holiday, offering a neutral space to breathe. The flight felt like crossing more than states. It was a step toward choosing himself. In Roman's sleek apartment overlooking Lake Michigan, they cooked a simple meal, shared stories until midnight, the conversation flowing into admissions that friendship had become something deeper. "I don't want to complicate your life," Brayden said softly. Roman's hand covered his. "You're not the complication. The hiding is." The moment lingered, tender and real, but they pulled back, honoring the slow pace their hearts needed. Back in San Francisco after the weekend, Brayden felt changed, stronger, clearer. Yet the family silence loomed like an unfinished chapter. A text from his father arrived unexpectedly. "We miss you. Come home for Christmas." The invitation carried layers, and Brayden knew the next visit would demand answers neither side was ready for. The internal storm raged on, but for the first time, he wasn't facing it alone. Christmas in Pasadena arrived wrapped in twinkling lights and unspoken tension. Brayden drove down with a suitcase full of carefully chosen gifts and a heart guarded by weeks of therapy sessions back home. The family home smelled of pine and cinnamon, but the warmth felt conditional. Emily hugged him tightly at the door, whispering, "Please, let's just enjoy the holiday." Derek kept his distance, offering stiff nods, while their parents steered conversations toward safe topics like Emily's wedding plans. Roman had flown in separately at Brayden's quiet invitation, staying at a nearby hotel, a secret support system Brayden clung to during late-night texts. The first crack appeared on Christmas Eve. During gift exchange, Uncle Mike made a pointed remark about modern lifestyles ruining traditions, eyes flicking toward Brayden. The room tensed, but before Brayden could respond, Roman, invited as Derek's best man for a pre-wedding gathering, spoke up calmly. "Traditions evolve, sir. That's what makes families stronger." The defense surprised everyone, including Derek, who shot Roman a glare. Later, in the kitchen, Emily cornered Brayden. "Roman's been different since the party. Is something going on?" The misunderstanding deepened, accusations of disloyalty hanging in the air. Brayden's frustration boiled over. "I'm not the villain here. I'm just trying to exist." Emily's eyes filled with tears, revealing her own fear of losing the perfect family picture. The confrontation left Brayden raw, retreating to the backyard where Roman found him under the stars. "You stood your ground. That's growth." Their conversation stretched into the night, hands brushing, emotions surfacing in quiet confessions. Brayden admitted the years of self-doubt. Roman shared his own journey of questioning everything after college. The bond solidified, no labels yet, but undeniable. New Year's brought a work crisis back in San Francisco, a client pulling a major project over image concerns after seeing Brayden at a local Pride event in old photos. The rejection echoed family prejudice, triggering a spiral of doubt. Roman flew out immediately, canceling meetings in Chicago. They spent evenings walking the foggy streets, Roman reminding him, "Your worth isn't defined by their approval." The support became the turning point. Brayden redesigned his portfolio with bolder, more authentic pieces, channeling the pain into creativity. Friendship with a straight colleague at the studio strained when rumors spread, another small betrayal that tested his resilience. Yet each challenge carved away the old fear, revealing a man ready to claim his space. Valentine's weekend marked a shift. Roman arrived with tickets to a gallery opening, and amid abstract paintings and soft lighting, they shared their first real kiss on the rooftop terrace overlooking the bay. Tender, unhurried, born of months of emotional trust. "I've been falling for you since that terrace," Roman whispered. Brayden's heart swelled, the romantic moment washing away years of isolation. They agreed to keep it private until after Emily's wedding, protecting the fragile peace. But secrets have weight. A leaked photo from a mutual friend at the gallery reached Derek, sparking a furious call that forced Brayden to confront the cost of hiding. The misunderstanding escalated into a heated family group chat, parents demanding explanations, Emily caught in the middle. Brayden flew back for a tense dinner, defending his happiness without apology. The sacrifice was real, risking the wedding invitation, but Roman stood beside him virtually, a constant anchor. The internal crisis peaked as Brayden realized love wasn't the problem. Fear was. Growth came in the quiet decision to no longer shrink. Spring wedding planning turned the family home into a battlefield of flowers and expectations. Brayden attended the rehearsal dinner out of duty, Roman by his side as best man. Their secret relationship a quiet strength amid the chaos. Derek's toast carried veiled barbs, the tension thick enough to cut. When Emily pulled Brayden aside, her voice breaking, "I just want everyone happy," the misunderstanding reached its breaking point. She confessed overhearing Derek's friends joke about fixing Brayden, yet still defended her fiancé out of love. The betrayal stung deepest from his sister, the one person he thought understood. Brayden walked out into the garden, Roman following, their embrace under the moonlight a silent promise. Whatever happens tomorrow, we face it together. The wedding day dawned bright, the venue transformed into a fairy tale. As vows were exchanged, Brayden sat in the back row, heart heavy with conflicting emotions. Joy for Emily, grief for the family he was losing pieces of. During the reception, Derek approached, drink in hand, offering a half-hearted apology laced with excuses. Brayden accepted it for Emily's sake, but the moment felt hollow. Later, on the dance floor, Roman pulled him into a quiet corner, their hands linking briefly out of sight. "You don't have to perform anymore." The words unlocked something, and when the band played a slow song, Brayden made a choice. He led Roman onto the floor openly, the room falling into stunned silence as they danced, not as friends but as partners. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Emily's eyes widened, parents froze mid-conversation. Derek's face reddened, but he said nothing. The earlier incident now mirrored in reverse. The confrontation came at the head table. Their father stood, voice trembling. "Son, what is this?" Brayden spoke clearly, years of suppressed truth pouring out. The pain of the chair yank, the years of silence, the love he had found despite it all. Roman stood beside him, steady and proud, adding his own story of hidden identity and the freedom found in honesty. Emily's tears turned to understanding as she hugged them both, whispering apologies for her doubts. The family reaction shifted slowly, Mom reaching for Brayden's hand, Dad nodding in stunned acceptance. The speechless moment lasted long minutes, the entire reception hall processing the revelation that love had been there all along, waiting for courage. Misunderstandings dissolved in honest talks late into the night, sacrifices acknowledged, growth evident in every embrace. Brayden felt the weight lift, the identity crisis resolved not in perfection but in authenticity. As the party wound down, Roman and Brayden stepped outside, the stars the same as that first terrace night. "You changed everything," Roman said, pulling him close. Brayden smiled, the future no longer shadowed by fear. The journey had tested them across cities, through family storms and personal doubts, but it had forged something unbreakable. Months later, life in San Francisco had settled into a new rhythm for Brayden and Roman. They shared an apartment now, mornings filled with coffee and sketches, evenings with plans for a joint design project blending architecture and graphics. Brayden's career flourished with bolder clients who valued his authentic voice, the old workplace discrimination fading as his confidence grew. Roman's firm opened a West Coast office, bridging their worlds without sacrifice. Family visits to Pasadena became easier, awkward at first, then genuine, with Emily and her new husband hosting dinners where laughter replaced tension. Parents asked questions, listened without judgment, the prejudice slowly replaced by pride. One weekend in Chicago, visiting Roman's family, Brayden witnessed the same awakening unfold on a smaller scale. Roman came out fully, supported by Brayden's presence, turning old misunderstandings into healing conversations. Friendships strengthened too. The colleague who once distanced himself reached out with apologies, rebuilding trust. Brayden reflected often on the chair incident that started it all, not as trauma, but as the catalyst that forced every relationship to evolve. The emotional journey had been long, marked by internal battles, external pressures, and pivotal choices. Yet each step led to this: a man at peace with who he loved and who he was. On a sunny afternoon in Golden Gate Park, Roman knelt with a simple ring, the proposal quiet and heartfelt. "You've shown me what real courage looks like. Will you build the rest of our lives together?" Brayden said yes through tears, the romantic moment sealing years of growth. They celebrated with close friends, the family joining via video call, voices warm and supportive. The story that began with a fall ended with a rise. Two men standing tall, relationships mended, identities embraced. Brayden looked at Roman under the park trees, the city humming around them, and knew the awakening was complete. True or false? Family acceptance only comes after hitting rock bottom?